Hello and welcome to the 50-cent tour of Friday, April 19th, 2013. Hey, congratulations. You've made it through the week so far. And if you still have your sanity, you still have your faith, and you still understand what's going on, you got it going on. Please find a seat on the Liberty bus and we'll take one last look around for the week. And tomorrow's the weekend, and the Liberty bus does not run on weekends. Devastating explosion at fertilizer plant rocks Texas town. Now, when I first heard about this, I wondered if it was a distraction from the marathon bombing. That things were going south a little bit. They weren't able to control the information. And hey, as they have found, a good distraction works really well to divert people's attention away from the real issues, right? But that is actually, this does not rule that out, because the bad guys like to kill more than one bird with a stone. Before the blast, West Fertilizer's Monsanto lawsuit. Turns out that this company had filed a lawsuit against Monsanto. So we can never take anything for granted. I'm so glad that InfoWars is out there looking in all the dark corners. And that actually, the corner thing reminds me, I just want to state, who is responsible for exposing truth? I was thinking this morning about when Jesus said the things that had been whispered in corners in the house would be shouted from the rooftops. I was just praying and asking the Lord, okay, Lord, you're going to expose truth, right? And that verse came to mind, and I just thought about, okay, who is it who's shouting on the rooftops? That is probably not God directly. Someone moved by the Holy Spirit. But I got the feeling as I meditated on that the responsibility for shouting from the rooftops lies with us once we have discovered what is going on. So warm up your vocal cords. Get your ladder out. I'm not suggesting you literally get up on your roof, although I suppose that is an option. But speak. Tell people. Facebook, tweet, whatever. Let people know what's going on. You'll be doing them a favor. As Monk used to say, you'll thank me later. And of course he always said that when he was doing something that he knew made somebody angry. And it's kind of like telling them the truth, right? For Pakistanis, it's a Boston Marathon bombing nearly every day. Perspective here. We have done these things to other countries. I'm not trying to put guilt on us. Mercy triumphs over judgment, but I think it's important to remember that point of view. FBI tells America, believe us and no one else. Now, I actually was listening to the press conference. I don't normally hear this kind of mainstream media stuff, but by coincidence, I actually heard this guy in the FBI tell people, these are the valid photos, ignore all the other ones. And wow, we'd have to be extremely traumatized to be able to be mind controlled to accept that hypnotic suggestion, which is what it is. How can someone tell you, don't believe what your eyes see, only believe what we tell you you're seeing? Of course, that mainstream media has been doing that for many years. Time to stop that. Mainstream media, Boston Marathon suspect shot and killed, second suspect still at large. Well, that's the story. Is it possible that there's something larger going on, that there are rogue agents or people who, you know, for all we know, there could be a larger bomb hidden somewhere there, and that was the threat. Benjamin Fulford said a while ago in his blog, wrote in his blog, that North Korea was making all this noise because the cabal had plans to detonate a nuclear bomb somewhere, and the cabal wanted to be able to blame North Korea and start a war. Maybe this is Plan B, what's going on now. So, whatever the case, Boston is in lockdown. This is what martial law looks like. It looks like it appears to be an overreaction, but we can't rule out that there is something else going on. I mean, this is if this is just to find one guy with a gun, this is a serious overreaction. Serious overreaction. It's just to get, make us afraid. I mean, that's one thought that I had, was that this is to add to the trauma. Because what they do sometimes in these situations that affect a lot of people, trauma-based mind control isn't only done to a little girl sitting in a chair somewhere at CIA headquarters. Trauma-based mind control can be done in different scales. And here they are traumatizing us, and I hope I'm not traumatizing you by showing you these photos, but I think it's important to know what's going on, because this is what most people who watch the mainstream media are seeing. So they traumatize us with these kind of photos, and then they plant whatever suggestions they want us to think was our own idea, probably, and bada bing, bada boom, we're mind controlled. That's how it works. We think what they want us to think, but we know how to resist that, right? The specific indictment of Bush Jr., Obama, CIA, U.S. military torture of 9/11 prisoners at Gitmo is finally confirmed as a war crime. Yeah, I know. I had this yesterday too. To me, this is the big enchilada. If you haven't had lunch yet, that probably makes you hungry. But talk about hypnotic suggestion. Seriously, this is, I believe, what all these other ripples in the pond are about. This is where the pebble fell in, and we are supposed to let our eyes wander along the ripples. But I believe this is the significant issue, and I hope that people don't just casually let go of this. It is going to get worse before it gets better. This is Tom Hennigan, just his perspective, which I find helpful and significant. I'm not saying it's gospel, but I think there's some truth that can probably be gleaned from this. General Childers' letter to Judge England, and I'm kind of moving away from all the trauma stuff and what's going on right now. However this all plays out, we are going to have to continue on in a full court press for liberty. And some of this information that I have toward the end of the tour here, I believe, can be helpful with that. This common law and business trust, if we can understand some of these things a little better, get a little better grasp on these, we will be in a better position to move into the new, more free, more liberty-oriented world that I believe is coming. What's going on in the world, as we are all focused on Boston and the fertilizer explosion in Texas? Reports from the region indicate that at least 7 were killed and at least 60 others were injured in protests following the Venezuela election on Tuesday. Venezuelan President-elect accuses U.S. and others of a coup. We're not above it, are we? And by we, I don't mean you and me. I mean the guys who we would like to see indicted and flushed out of our government, out of the U.S. government, and we'd like to have our republic restored, right? And in moving toward that, 5 vital strategies for peacefully underthrowing the status quo. I actually got a little teary-eyed when I read these 5. Just general suggestions that are not difficult to make a part of our lives. This was the one that made me teary-eyed a little. Peaceful parenting. The kind of society that we want to create is eventually going to be the society that our children will be responsible for. And the more children who have lives that are filled with peace, negotiation, and tranquility, the better chance there is of that kind of society existing when those children grow up. So if we can agree to implement some of these suggestions in our lives, we can improve our present and our future, and also even the more distant future. And this is for you, for the weekend, as a suggestion on one way to release some of the stress and tension that we're all experiencing. It's important to rest. It's important to find restoration. Even God had to rest a day out of 7 after his labors. And aromatherapy really it has value. And a book that we have, Healing is Voltage, even suggests different frequencies that different oils have and how those frequencies affect the cellular matter that makes up who we are. So this isn't just, it's pleasant, but it's not just for a benefit to the senses. It actually, these oils actually do physically benefit you. So they have some suggestions here. I would also add frankincense to that list. Frankincense has a lot of value, and there have been reports that frankincense can even heal skin cancer when topically applied, if it's the right kind of, that's frankincense from very old trees from a certain place. And all those things considered, she who will walk in the dark thanks you for your company on this tour, and thanks you for your dedication to truth and liberty, and hopes that you do have a refreshing weekend, hopes that your prayers are soon answered. And we do know that the dawn is coming, and even though weeping may endure for a night, joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you also will love one another and insist on liberty. I think I already covered the take care part.